Welcome to episode 139 of the Brainy Business, Understanding the Psychology of Why People Buy. Today's Behavioral Economics Foundations episode is about the Endowment Effect. Ready? Let's get started.
You are listening to the Brainy Business Podcast, where we dig into the psychology of why people buy and help you incorporate behavioral economics into your business, making it more brain-friendly. Now here's your host, Melina Palmer.
Hello, everyone. My name is Melina Palmer, and I want to welcome you to the Brainy Business Podcast. Today, we'll be digging in on the endowment effect. This concept is similar to a few you've heard on the show before, including loss aversion, the IKEA effect, and even a little bit of reciprocity mixed in there, but they're not the same. And the endowment effect is super impactful for all kinds of businesses, everything from physical products to services, online versus brick and mortar shops, all can use the endowment effect to impact sales and customer experience. And yes, this even comes up when discussing change with members on your team, though because that already has an entire episode on change management, I'm not really going to get into that too much today. You can learn more about the endowment effect, get your freebie worksheet, links to past episodes, and any other important content I mention here in the show notes, which you'll find in the app you're listening to or at thebrainybusiness.com/139. For all you listeners who are already on the Brainy Business list, your worksheet is waiting for you in your inbox already, along with the email you get from me each Friday. Not on the list yet? Simply download the freebie worksheet for this episode, and you'll be automatically added. Those in the States can always text the word Brainy, BRAINY, to 33777 as well. Once you send that text or download that first freebie, you get access to the super secret subscribers page with more than 50 freebies and more all the time as a thank you. And before we jump right in on the episode, can I share something really cool with you? This week, an article came out on Psychology Today called 21 Psychology Podcasts Every Business Person Should Listen to. I'm so honored that the Brainy Business made the list. In Psychology Today, you guys, how cool is that? And you will notice when you go to check out the article that while it says they aren't in any particular order, the Brainy Business is first on the list, which is very, very exciting and such an honor. Thank you to the author, Michael Shine, for including the Brainy Business on that list. Our friends Tim and Kurt from Behavioral Grooves made the list as well. And there are some other really great shows on there you will want to check out. There is, of course, a link to that article for you in the show notes. Now, let's talk endowment effect. In its simplest form, the endowment effect teaches us that we value things more when we own them or have perceived ownership over them. To put it another way, we like our stuff more than other people's stuff. What's crazy and really useful for businesses to know is that it is incredibly easy to trigger the endowment effect. Even a slight change in words can make a huge impact. There was actually a really subtle use of the endowment effect in that example I just shared about the Psychology Today article. Did you catch it? Let me say it again here, and then I'll break it down for you. Here is the full sentence in question again. And you will notice when you go to check out that article that while it says they aren't in any particular order, the Brainy Business is first on the list, which is very, very exciting and such an honor. Did you hear it that time? By saying you will notice when you go to check out the article, I'm triggering the endowment effect. I could have just as easily said, I was so excited to see that the Brainy Business was first on the list, which is true and in many ways is saying exactly the same thing, but it doesn't have the same impact. Making it personalized by using the word you makes a difference, but also saying when you do this thing is really powerful for triggering perceived ownership in the brain. This is also why when I have a guest on the show and I share about their book, for example, I don't say, if you want to learn more, or if you're interested in getting a copy of the book, or for anyone who might want a copy of the book. No. I say, for everyone who's going to go order their own copy of the book, or to get your copy of the book, So making it personal is important, but it's also about the implied assumption that whatever you're saying is a foregone conclusion of sorts. One very simple language shift that makes a huge difference when applying the endowment effect, and one I always encourage my clients to use, is the swap from if to when. If I would have said, you'll notice if you go check out the article, it doesn't have the same weight as, you will notice when you go check out the article. You care. You're going to read it. It isn't about if, it's a when. And that's much more impactful. Even if you don't go check it out right away, it was stored in your memory as something you care about, something you're interested in, something you will do someday. It's subtly endearing you to the idea. Whereas if kind of washes over your brain and is gone before you give it a second thought. And I promise now that you look for them, you are going to notice that you use if all the time. And you have tons of opportunities to just swap in whens throughout, and it will make a really big difference in your conversion rates. The endowment effect is very closely linked to loss aversion, but as I said at the top of the episode, they're not the same thing. A study in Neuron, which is, of course, waiting for you in the show notes, found that the endowment effect works by enhancing the salience of possible loss. To put that in less academic speak, it makes the possibility of loss more apparent or clear in your mind. It makes it so you're more aware of the possibility that you would lose something. And because we humans are averse to losses, we hold tighter to the item in question, sometimes physically, and sometimes just in your mind. When you're given something or interact with it, your brain takes some ownership over it. It can become part of your identity as the endowment effect takes place. You don't need to have physically purchased it or technically own it for this to happen. Your brain doesn't wait for little details like that. This is why an overnight test drive works, or trying on clothes in a dressing room, or free samples at Costco, or using an app to mock up what your room would look like with that new rug or sofa or paint color, or getting a drawing of what your new yard will look like if you pay the landscaper, or getting a free mock-up of what your website could look like from a designer, or even being able to play around with an item on Amazon by zooming in or turning it around virtually. It all works because it's triggering the endowment effect in your brain. And again, this is also different from the IKEA effect, which takes place when you create something yourself, you like it more. They are similar, but you can have an endowment effect take place without actually touching things or building them yourself. And so because of the IKEA effect, you actually are putting in the effort to create something. It is a little bit different. And much like anchoring with numbers, the first thing you are given is going to act like the anchor that you're more likely to take ownership over. And we aren't the only animals impacted by the endowment effect. When you give a monkey some peanut butter and then offer it juice, only 20% are willing to trade. 80% want their peanut butter and will resist trading for the juice. And this isn't because monkeys find peanut butter more delicious. What happens when you give them the juice first and then make an offer to trade for peanut butter? 80% of them refuse and want to keep their juice. Whatever they're given first triggers the endowment effect, and they don't want to give it up. It doesn't really matter what it is, that first item gets the imprint of love upon it. It's the same for humans. This test was done with people who were given mugs and chocolate bars. It was also done with cash versus lottery tickets. The endowment effect still holds, and it works even when the items are given at random. I'm guessing most students on any given day would say they would prefer to be given a chocolate bar over being given a mug. Though when Kahneman did the study, of those who were given the mug first, 89% chose to keep it when presented with the chocolate bar. Only 11% wanted to trade. Being given the item first and told it was yours made it so it was worth more to you, and you didn't want to get rid of it. Of course, if you were to give someone 10 things and then ask if they want to trade any of them, they might all have some level of the endowment effect. The reason it gets triggered, remember, is that loss aversion. If you just keep giving people things, there's no potential loss of the items they have. So the endowment effect doesn't have much of an outward impact. It's only when that trade is presented and they need to give something up that we really see it in action. This is a lesson for your business to learn, and you've likely seen it come up all the time when you've bought items yourself, or if you've ever tried to cancel anything, say a subscription. Many systems are set up so you earn things like credits or points. They may keep accruing, and if you ever stop paying, you will lose them all. That little twinge will keep you paying, often for things you don't really use or need. I had this happen for me personally with Textiful. That's the system I use that lets you text the word Brainy to 33777 and get on the email list. Their system is free for a lot of their features, and when you go over a certain amount of subscribers in a month, it automatically bumps you up to a paid plan. And it's not that it, reverts the next month when you're under, you stay there. Early on, when I was first getting into speaking, I didn't get tons of subscribes from that system, but there was one month where I had, 6 different speaking engagements, and I went over the quota, so I had to start paying. I had several speaking engagements over the next couple months, so I figured it was worth keeping it going. There were a couple of other features that I wanted to try out, but I never hit that cap again in those following months. So all the credits I was earning from my paid account were just piling up and up and up. I didn't need them. I wasn't using them. I hadn't for many months when I was looking to downgrade back off the paid subscription. But there was this nagging feeling in the back of my mind when I thought about turning it off. I'm going to be speaking to bigger and bigger audiences. I've got some events coming up in a couple months. It probably won't be that long before I need those, and I'm going to be kicking myself if I lose those hundreds, or maybe even thousands, of prepaid credits. The sunk cost fallacy ties in here as well, as you can see. I wanted to keep investing because I might need those credits at some point in the future. It felt like it was worth continuing to pay $20 a month or whatever it was to keep the account going and adding more and more credits each month that I would never use. And this is because they were mine. I had earned them. I could see their value, and they were worth more to me because I already had them in my account. Consider if someone was to say, Melina, I'll sell you 5,000 credits for $50. I wouldn't have bought them. I didn't need them, and I knew that logically. It wasn't worth it to me to pay for a block of credits. So why did I want to keep paying to not lose the credits I already owned? As you know by now, it's because of the endowment effect. I did eventually drop the paid subscription and let those points go, but I'm sure I paid for a few extra months along the way, struggling with the endowment effect before I did. Think about that as you give people access to things in your business. If you look at it logically while building out a program, people who don't use their points or credits or whatever shouldn't have an aversion to stopping paying to keep things they don't use. But, of course, the subconscious isn't logical, and that line of thinking could cost you money and customers. Building the endowment effect into your programs can keep people motivated to stay. Ideally, you're also providing great value for them when they use it, but the endowment effect can help carry them through the valleys where they might be less active because they don't want to lose out on the progress they've made so far. This is why rollover minutes were so powerful when cell phone companies first introduced them. It's the same as those Textiful credits. As you know from the early examples, physical touch has a big impact on the endowment effect. And I did talk about this in great detail on the episode on the sense of touch, which is linked for you in the show notes. And as you'll learn in that episode, you can trigger the benefits of touch with really great pictures and descriptive words as well. Research has shown, for example, that showing a high-quality image of a textile will impact the brain as if you were touching it just by looking at it, which can create that perceived ownership and the endowment effect. So great high-quality pictures and videos triggering mirror neurons of someone else engaging with the product can all help your business get the benefit of the endowment effect. Another way to really trigger the endowment effect, both for product and service businesses, is to use the word imagine or picture this. I also use really strong questions to help someone see the experience and live it a little bit. Consider these two examples. I could say, here's a great leather couch and it's on sale today. Want to buy it? Meh. I'm not super excited by that, and my brain doesn't have any ownership over the couch. Maybe later, maybe not. I'm going to go to the next store. If instead you say, picture your living room and imagine this chocolate leather sofa in the space. What direction would it be facing? Would you be sitting in it to watch the game, or perhaps having a glass of wine while laughing with friends? How does it feel in the space? Does it fit? Do you love it? And great news, it's on sale. It's amazing. I do love it. And it's on sale, you say? I don't want to give that up. I can already see myself having parties with it. Don't take that dream away. I love who I am with this couch in my life. Same couch, same price, completely different buying experience. And before we move on, I know this is a point where there might be questions floating around about manipulation. I have a couple of points to make here. First, studies show that people get what they expect. And as you know from the endowment effect, they value things higher when they have ownership over them. So getting someone excited about the prospect of owning something can actually help them to enjoy it more when they do own it, which is a good thing. That could mean less regret and truly loving and getting value out of that item. As long as you aren't in predatory lending practices or forcing people to get products they don't need, I think this can have a very positive impact on the buying experience and can also increase satisfaction and loyalty scores when there's an optimal experience with a company. In addition, these are nudging techniques, and everyone has free will to not buy the item in question. Yes, of course, some people do have legitimate issues with overspending, but in general, when you're selling things, people don't get nudged into buying things they have absolutely no use for. There could be an amazing sale on a wedding dress or some size 6 shoes, but there's no deal good enough to nudge me into buying them. I have big feet and I'm very happily married. No description is grand enough to force me into buying it if I don't need the thing. And with all that in mind, as with every episode of The Brainy Business, I want to say to use your powers for good and not for evil. Help the right people find the best products and services for them and make it an irresistible offer that will help them truly love you and that item after they've bought. The endowment effect can help you do just that. Now, to give an example for a service business with the Imagine technique, let's talk a little about value. Say you have a common concern from customers that your service is maybe going to be too expensive. Let's say it's $1,000 a month to work with you, and they're concerned about the value. If you know this is a common concern or a pain point, it can be valuable to trigger the endowment effect to help potential customers see it as an expense that's worth it to them before they even voice the concern. Let's say you don't know anything about their numbers, and if you were to say, think about your gross sales from last year. Imagine if this year you and the team could do the exact same amount of work and have a 25% increase over last year. How much more would you be bringing in? What could you do to improve your business with that extra revenue? For only $1,000 a month, we can make that happen. Or if you know their numbers, you could make it even more compelling because they don't have to do the math themselves, and lazy brains kind of like to tune that out. So you could say something like, let's look at your gross profit in 2020 of $500,000. Imagine if this year, with no extra effort from your team, you could grow that by 25%. What would you do with an extra $100,000 if you had it right now to spend on anything? Our clients see a minimum of 25% in growth when they work with us, and the investment is only $1,000 a month. Is that worth it to you for an extra $100,000 minimum in profits this year? Making the experience real for them right now is a great way to use the power of the endowment effect. And yes, you saw some anchoring in there as well. The last item I'm going to touch on today is something I've mentioned multiple times on the podcast, a money-back guarantee. One of the main reasons these work is because of the endowment effect. If I know I can try the thing out and get a refund down the line, no questions asked, I'm more likely to try it. That's another nudge. And once I have it in my hands and bring it home or start using your services, I'm taking ownership over it, and the idea of giving it up will trigger the loss aversion and endowment effect, so I'm less likely to return it. There's an exception to every rule, so I'm sure there's at least one business out there that would say their money-back guarantee costs them money, but I've never heard of one. These are almost always working out in a way that they're profitable for the business. There's a reason Amazon, Zappos, Nordstrom, Costco, and so many others have stellar return policies. More people take a chance and buy, and few, comparatively, return things. As a side note, I've brought up Costco a couple times now and want you to know there is already an episode of my behavioral economics analysis of Costco, which is linked for you in the show notes, along with your freebie worksheet and lots of other great links to articles and things like that. You'll find it all at thebrainybusiness.com/139. And before we close out today's episode, I want to do a quick summary of the tips I provided for you today on the show, which are summarized on your free worksheet, of course. The first thing you can do to be triggering the endowment effect is to make the message personalized, to say you. You can also be making that transition over from if to when to help have that implied endorsement that it's going to happen. And this is also a time where you want to switch from anyone to everyone. So instead of saying, if anyone wants to take advantage of this, go here, you can say, for everyone who wants to do this, when you're ready, go here. The next tactic is to use the word imagine or picture this or ask them some good questions to help overcome some time discounting and really feel in the moment experiencing this item, whether they're physically able to touch it or not. Using that imagine experience is going to be very helpful to trigger the endowment effect. Which leads to the next item of physical touch. When you do have something you can put in people's hands, definitely take advantage of that. And if you can't, know that you can also have really great imagery, and we can trigger mirror neurons by watching other people engage. This is also why when you watch a YouTube video and they have the little arrow, click on subscribe, it can also be triggering that sort of endowment effect mirror neuron benefit when I'm not physically doing it myself. And the last tip is to definitely have a satisfaction guarantee with a great return policy. Getting people to have the item in their hands or to buy whatever it is, the service, whatever you have, and then knowing that they're much less likely to return it once the endowment effect has taken place, but you'll get more people over the hurdle of buying with the opportunity of knowing they could return it, even though most people won't take advantage of that. I have also linked to a fun article from Crowbox, which had 10 examples of the endowment effect being used in retail, in case you want to dig in on that a little more as you start applying the endowment effect in your business. Again, it's all waiting for you at thebrainybusiness.com/139. As we close out this episode, I'm excited to announce that my first book, which I've been teasing for such a long time, What Your Customer Wants and Can't Tell You, is officially on presale and available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble with links for you in the show notes so you can buy today. The book officially launches on May 11th, 2021, but buying now guarantees you'll be one of the first to receive this book in print when it's released. Yay! I'm so excited to share this with the world and can't wait to hear what you think of it. Of course, there are links in the show notes, and if you're outside the US, do still try now and let me know if you have any issues finding the book. The publisher is setting up those international agreements, so it will be available around the world. But if you can't see it yet when you go to your Amazon or wherever, let me know so I can tell them and we can show the demand wherever you're listening from. And if you are interested in being part of my launch team to help promote the book and maybe get a sneak peek, send an email to melina@thebrainybusiness.com with the subject line of Book Launch Team. There will be a limited number of these spots available, so act fast if you're interested. Thanks for all you've done as a listener of The Brainy Business to help make this book possible. I appreciate you. And just like that, episode 139 on the Endowment Effect is done. Next week, I'll be joined by Dr. Benny Chung of DeckTech to share a really cool study they did to decrease fraud using simple nudging techniques. It's going to be a lot of fun. You won't want to miss it. Until then, thanks again for listening and learning with me. And remember to be thoughtful.
Thank you for listening to the Brainy Business Podcast. Molina offers virtual strategy sessions, workshops, and other services to help businesses be more brain-friendly. For more free resources, visit thebrainybusiness.com.